Hello everyone and welcome to my studio. Today we're going to be continuing with our acrylic painting project. We were working on an abstract tree last week, and this time we're going to be working on continuing that abstract tree, and I personally am going to move forward with the abstract landscape for our next project. So you can paint along with me, you can watch whatever is comfortable for you. I just have here where we left off last week. I had a previous painting, and I mentioned to you that you can paint over old paintings with acrylic. It's very convenient because if you mess up, you can let it dry and paint over it. Much different from watercolor. Or you can just take an old painting that you don't like anymore and make it something else. So we're gonna use what I had. I started out with a tree that I didn't like. It was a demo from another class, from another project. I didn't like the way the tree turned out. I was using cool colors for that demo, so I kept going with this. So I had a tree. I don't know if you can see it. It was kind of like a palm tree kind of blowing in the wind, but I just didn't like the lines. I didn't like the texture. And I just kept looking at it and I said, well, you know what? I can just use this, paint over it for our abstract tree project. So I started out last week. I had, I kind of used the white outline first, and that was just our abstraction. You don't necessarily have to do that. And I started in with our basic tree trunk, branches, came out here for the ground. And then I was telling you about different types of brushes. We talked about flat brushes where it's rectangular across the top or square across the top, and then we talked about round brushes, and this was a little small one that I was using for the outline. I was using the round brush for the outline, and I was using the flat brush for the marks in the tree. Now, if you want your strokes to show, then you would probably want to use a flat brush, because this is going to make your blending difficult, because that flat line there is going to, you know, if you want to show those choppy strokes, that's a good thing. If you want your lines or your strokes to not show, a round brush is very good. All right, so I was in the process of filling in the trunk here and going into the branches. I was using phthalo blue. I still have my palette out from last time. I was using titanium white, ivory black. Remember I was telling you the difference between ivory black and Mars black. Mars black is a warmer black. It has a brown undertone. Ivory black is a colder black, and it has a cooler undertone. And it's shiny. Ivory black is usually a lot shinier than Mars black. Mars black will give you a kind of matte look, and then ivory black, it will give you more of a gloss. All right, so I'm gonna I have my palette. I took my palette and I covered it up with saran wrap because I knew I was gonna use it. Remember I told you about a spray bottle? I sprayed it and then I covered it up because I was gonna use it again. You don't have to do that with watercolor. Watercolor can dry out and you can just reconstitute it with water, as we've learned in previous sessions. But with acrylic, if you let it dry, there's that rubber polymer content in there. It's not epoxy. Epoxy is like a glue that's found in gesso, which is used to treat your canvases. But acrylic paint it's like liquid plastic basically. And when it dries, it's permanent. So you want to make sure you keep your paint if you need it for the next session. So as I was saying, I had some phthalo green, which is like a teal green. I had some phthalo blue, I had some ultramarine blue, and I was showing you that, and I had my other little camera, and I kind of pointed to you about mixing paint. But let's continue with where I was. Now, if you want to paint along with me, please do so, and then we can have some fun together today. I have my water cup, I have paper towels nearby, you can take an old towel, you know, that you don't need anymore, clean, dry, just use it just in case you have any spills or you need to use it. Remember I had a spill and it was dripping and I had to change that. So let's get my brush wet. Now, when I'm working on this area, I haven't wet my brush yet, but I don't want my brush totally dry because it's not going to blend well. Also, I don't want it totally wet because it's going to run. I want to, this is dry from last time. I want to show those strokes. I want to show the choppiness of those strokes. So I'm not totally blending like this. And I think I was kind of, I don't remember, I was just doing this intuitively. I was just kind of coming down here with some dark areas. I think I wanted to get a little bit more green as I went up. So we're just going to play with that and go from there. So, and remember, you don't have to have everything pre-mixed. Some of this stuff, when you start putting those strokes on there, it's going to mix on the canvas. So I'm going to dampen my brush. I'm not going to have it dripping wet. I'm going to have my paper towel here. Please use an apron to protect your clothes, because if acrylic paint gets in your clothes, if you don't get it out immediately, it will stain and or be there for, it's permanent. It won't come out. It won't wash out. None of that. Same thing with your carpet in your house. Please don't have, you don't want paint all in the carpet. All right, now the good thing about this is you can kind of play, and then if you don't like the color, you can kind of go over it. So I'm just going to dip over here. Let's see. I'm going to start with my, I think my ultramarine blue. I'm going to load it on my brush, meaning I'm going to just have a whole bunch of it on my brush. And I have it on both sides just because you can turn it around. If you have water dripping down the barrel of your brush, that might affect your painting, because if you turn this way, it might run down into your brush and make more water than needs to be. So just keep a paper towel handy if that needs to, if you need to wipe that off. Okay, so let's go in here with my choppy strokes. I'm going to make my strokes go in the same direction of my branches, because if I stayed vertical the whole way, that's not going to make any sense. I want it to look like this. Now see, I don't have enough water. My paint is really thick from last time. I want it to look like this tree is living, moving, growing. I need a little bit more water, so I'm going to just dip it in the water and just take out the extra. And that's too blue for me right now. That's too royally blue. I don't like that. I want some phthalo blue. Remember that phthalo blue is more of a teal blue. It mixes very well with phthalo green. Beautifully, beautifully. And so my paint is a little bit thick from being up underneath this plastic. So I'm going to load some more on my brush. I think my brush might be a little bit too wet. You can't really see the beauty of the phthalo blue until you go over the top of it with some white. So there's my phthalo blue that you can't see. And I went over that, and I'm going to come back because I shouldn't have done that. Or, you know, you can paint your object. If you want to do that white outline for your abstract, you can. You can paint your object and then come back in with the white outline later, or do both. All right, so let me show you something pretty. My white has dried up on my palette, so I'm going to get a little bit more titanium white. I have my bucket of paint down here. So I use paint in the tube. This is a big tube. You can do big tubes, small tubes, or the little, they have like little small jars, whichever is more convenient for you. I'm going to squeeze out some titanium white over here. It was the same palette from last time. And let's get some white on my brush. Now be careful with the white. You don't want to load it up, because if you want the beauty of that blue and those greens to show, but you don't want it like pasty white or pastel white, all you need is a little bit. So I'm going to just dampen my brush. I don't even know that I need to dampen my brush, but I'm going to. And I'm going to take a bit of this white on the tip. So I just got a little bit of that white on my tip there. And I have my paper towel just in case that's too much water. So I'm not going to like mash it. I'm not going to just press hard, because I don't know how much white I want yet. So I'm just going to, and this is a stiff brush, and that's what I was saying our last time. For watercolors, you can have a softer brush. For acrylics, you can use the same brush because they're both water-based, but sometimes you might want a stiffer brush with maybe man-made fibers for acrylic paint instead of natural fibers for the watercolor. Watercolor is a lot of times made out of red sable. All right, so I'm going to take that's a little bit too white, but you get my point. All right, and then so the phthalo was mixing with the ultramarine, so it's still not the blue that I want. So what I can do is I can either get some of the phthalo green, or I can get more of the phthalo blue. If I get more of the phthalo blue, it might show some of that teal color, but I want to start getting here now. So I might want to pick up some phthalo green because I have so much blue underneath that you might not be able to distinguish between that ultramarine blue and the phthalo blue. So I think I have too much green. I dipped a little bit of green on my brush there. I think that's too much. I'm gonna take that off because I still want my blue. I don't want it so green yet. And remember, I still have blue on my brush. I still have white on my brush. So it's all gonna mix while I'm stroking on the canvas, okay? All right, now that's a little better. I want that green to blend because I don't want it that green yet. So I'm gonna pull it in my brush some. And remember where this had dried? So that's your challenge. If you come back to a painting, you left the part dry and you're starting on your new part, you gotta make it look like all of that's consistent and continuous. So sometimes it's hard. So stick with the same colors, stick with the same strokes, and try to blend that on in to make it look like you never stopped, if that makes sense. Now my strokes look different. These are skinnier than mine down here. This was, you know, I might have been in a different mood that day. So I want a little bit more white because I like the way that white shows there. So I'm gonna dip a little bit more of my brush in some of the white there. All right, and then if you want streaks like that, you can like put white on one edge of the brush. I don't know if y'all can see that, but you can put white on one edge of the brush and then it'll streak maybe in that one spot like that or like that, and then leave it. But I don't want to do too much white because then it's not going to look like that. And if I do too much white, I can come back in with a little bit more blue. But this time I want to come back in with a little bit more phthalo blue and not the ultramarine because that was too royal blue for me. All right, I'm just going to make a couple of little darker pieces here. All right, I'm going to leave that alone because if you overwork it, and then there's a piece there where my brush wasn't wet enough from last time. I'm going to cover that up. And then you can go back in later with details. So I'm just going to go a little bit faster because y'all kind of know what I'm doing now. I'm going to start with a blue base. I like my phthalo better personally on this than my ultramarine. I need a little bit more water on my brush because my paint had dried a little bit from last time. And I'm just kind of using the tip of the brush and I'm pulling. I'm not like, and I'm leaving space in between, so if I do want to come in with another color, I can. And this is totally up to you. If you're doing abstract, you know, your strokes are up to you. You can even do your landscape like this if you want, or you can do a traditional, realistic landscape. That's fine. It's up to you. Whatever you're feeling that day. Now, I want to get green now because I forgot. I wanted to get a little bit. See, I want some of that over there. So I forgot about my green. Let me go get some green. And let me put some white in there. And then we'll go from there. Let's do, I don't want too much green. But since I have the blue already in there, it's going to mix beautifully when I put that white. And then y'all see how I flip my brush over? Flip your brush over if you're running out and you don't feel like reaching for some more for some water, or if you don't feel like reaching for a refill of paint on your brush, flip it over and use everything that's there. And after a while, all this stuff is going to start mixing together anyway. So I'm going to get some more green, and then I'm going to come back in with my white. That white is going to make it pop. Whatever that color is that you want to pop, that white is going to come in there and make it pop. So I'm going to come in here with some green. Oh, that is so beautiful. I love the way that green mixes with that blue. And if you have your favorite colors, use your favorite colors. Whether you do an abstract landscape, an abstract tree, a realistic landscape, a realistic tree, you can still play around with your colors. You don't have to use traditional browns and greens. You can think about if the sun was setting, or if the sun was rising, or if there was a storm, you can use different colors. That's the fun thing about art. You can change up what you want to change up. So I'm just going to come in here. You can't really see my strokes because I'm just kind of filling up space right now. But like I said, when you come back in with some darks and some lights, it'll really show. I think I want a little bit more green. And step away from your painting while you're painting. Right now I'm seated, but I could get up. But since I'm recording, I can see my reflection in what I'm recording. So sometimes I can just kind of look over there to see what it looks like. But you want to get a distant view of it. All right. I want more green here. Here, I want green right there. Why? Because I don't know, I just feel that. You'll know what you want. It's your painting. You do what you want. Now, when I put that white, let's go back to the white. Oh, it's going to be so pretty, I think. I still want choppy. I want short choppy. I might want to spread those choppies out a little bit more, but I don't want it that distinct. I want to blend some of that white just a little bit. Thank y'all for allowing me to finish this from our last setting. The edges were touching right there, the outline, and I want a little bit more blue. I want to make that a little bit darker just for me because I just feel like it. And I put that ultramarine there. I hope you're painting along with me. I would love to see some of your paintings. Now I didn't like this. I was just kind of doing this intuitively and I just kind of branched off here and I didn't make a whole branch. So I think I'm going to take out that little connection and make another branch, a little bit greener. And then you'll see what I'm going to do. So I'm going to take some of that green and I'm going to go over that part because I want it to be part of the tree there. And then I'll take my outline and go back. I want a little bit more blue at the top. I'm going to take some ultramarine. Remember I told you, paint your edges. So for these, I painted the edges. Paint your edges because if it's a stretch canvas, you don't have to frame it to hang it. If you paint the edges, it'll save you money. Or if you're going to sell it and your buyer is going to frame it, you know, it can be displayed without a frame. Always paint your edges if you have a stretch canvas. Just carry on whatever you've got, just carry it over to the top. All right, I want some more blue again. Now I need some more green. I did too much blue. And you paint what you feel, you know. Now I want a little bit more white and then I'm going to come in and show you how I did that outline from last time. Just in case you missed it. Let's go just a little teeny bit of white, not too much. Be careful with the white. White will make it really, really light. As you can see, I don't want it that light. I'm just going to do like one more little spot and that's it. And I did 1.5 spots. All right, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to put that flat brush down. I'm going to get my round brush and wet it. I want it a little bit more wet than I would for this part because I need for this to flow without being grainy or choppy. I want it to be viscous, but not too wet so that it's runny. And I want pure white for that because that's where I was going with my abstraction. Make sure I'm mixing over here to the side where you can't see it. Roll your brush in the paint. If you have a round brush, you can roll it while you're mixing it. So when I say roll it, like while I was mixing it, I was turning it. I have water on my barrel of my brush, so I'm going to dry that off because that's going to roll into my paint and make it too wet. So I don't want to bear down too hard because I have a big old glob of paint on this brush. I'm going to get some of it off. I'm going to put more on the tip. And then don't put your hand there because that's wet. I'm going to make my little outline there. And stop there. Do I like that better? Yes, I like that better. Now, once I added that white, this is still too green for me. I'm going to go back in there, but let's go ahead and do those edges. Now I'm doing this at an angle, but you get the point. And then when I come off the camera, I'll go back in and fix what I need to fix, you know. See that? Those are just little tricks. You can always paint the edges of the canvas, and if it's continuation, you can hang it just like that, and you don't need a frame. Save money for a little bit of time if you need to, or if you need to go ahead and hang it and you don't have time to frame it, that can stand in. Do I need to make this thicker? Yes, I need to make that line a little bit thicker. Now I could take this time to go and fix up my little places where I messed up, but I could wait to do that later because I'm kind of excited to get down to the bottom. Let's see, I didn't do this side. Okay, so I didn't do that side. When I get some more blue and stuff on my brush, I'll go back and do that. And a good thing to do it while you're on that part, because you might forget and not come back later, and then you'll have to go and remix that color all over again. And I'm running out of paint. Don't you hate when you run out of paint and you don't want to redip? But you have to, because you were just on a roll creatively. All right, so I'm gonna just finish. And that's kind of wobbly, but it's okay that it's wobbly because this is a tree, guys, and the branches don't have to be perfect. All right, so I think that's all on that, and I didn't do over here. All right, now remember I got to put some blue over there. Okay, so before I come down here, I want to fix that one part because I want a little bit more blue there. Reason being is because those two lines of white make that green kind of fade into the white, and that's not what I want. So let me, I think I want some, let's do some phthalo. I don't want to mix it perfectly, but I do want it a little wet. So let's just dab a little bit, just a little bit. Now that's kind of dark. Phthalo is going to be really dark. And then you can come back in again with some white, like I told you. I think that might be just enough. You know, and if something inside of you tells you to stop, stop. You know, follow what your gut says with your paintings. Now that, you know what, I have too much white because that's a really close area there, so I'm going to take off a little bit of that white. You can't see it, but just dab with your white a little bit at a time. You can always add more. Sometimes it's harder to take it away. And then you probably have to go back over it. Now I like that color, but my strokes are too blended. But I don't have a lot of space. So, and then if you want to, there was one little area where it wasn't wet enough. So I'm just going to wet it and not use any more white and just kind of dab those areas. And then I'll start mixing your color. I think that's okay. I think I'll leave that alone for a while. You know what? No, I want one more teeny weeny little stroke of white. Teeny weeny little stroke of white. Just a little teeny piece. Just a little teeny piece. Right there. Yeah, love it. Now let's look at the bottom. So remember, I have white paint in my brush. So if you want darkened area, I need to clean my brush. Or I can get rid of it in some of this area, but I don't want to do that because I like the way this looks. So I'm going to clean my brush. Oh, wait, while I have blue, let me go ahead and do this side. All right, let me wet my brush some more and get a little bit. I'm going to pick up some more. Let's see. Let's do some ultramarine. I'm going to just dab that on in there, strokey, strokey. I want it to be blended with the front. I want it to look uniform, like I meant for it to go across like that. And I want to add a little bit of white because it's too blue. Just a little bit. Little details matter. Here, there, and everywhere. Okay. I think I have about 10 minutes left. Maybe I can lay in some ground there in that little bit of time. Oh, I like that. Oh yeah, that's cool. I want to bring that over to the front. so it looks like it's falling over. That I like that a lot. Okay, I got some paint there that's not supposed to be there. Okay, so I'm going to clean my brush because I have white in my brush and I don't want a lot of white down here. I'm going to start with my black now. Now I'm going to take my black. I'm going to do the same thing. So this is more tints, or getting closer to tints. And when I come down here, I want more shades. I'm going to add black where I was adding white. Now, not saying that I'm not going to add white, because if I add so much black and so much blue, this is just going to totally disappear and you can't see anything but darkness. Well, we don't want that. You still can see some greens here. I've got greens mixed in with the black. You know, it's not totally black. And I've heard that there's no part of nature that's totally perfectly black. I've heard that there's no perfect black in nature. That's what I've heard. I don't know if that's completely true, but I kind of believe that. It can get really, really dark brown, but it's probably not perfectly black. Now, I had a little bit of black left on my palette from last time. Let's see. Sometimes it makes a skin on the top and you can push it and then you got wet paint underneath the bottom. But this over here, you can't see it. It's just a big old blob of rubber. So I'm going to get some more ivory black out of my paint kit down here. It's a big tube. I usually use, you know, I don't want to say I use black and white the most, but and if you can get a good sale on it, if you know you're going to be painting, the big tubes sometimes are worth it. All right, so my brush is clean, not counting the stain, because these bristles were kind of white. Well, they weren't totally white. They were kind of like a bone color. No, actually, I think these bristles were white. So my brush is clean. I'm starting over. I still want my phthalo blue. I still want my phthalo green. I still want my ultramarine, but this time I'm going to use more black. Now, I like the way this looks here, but that got too dark. So I could just do green and blue right now for this area, and I think that's what I'll do. I think I'm going to start out with just a little bit of the green. Let's start out with green. I don't want my brush dripping wet, because remember, I still want to see those strokes. I'm going to thicken it up a little bit because I got a lot of canvas to cover. So I've got a big old roll of paint on my brush. All right. What direction do I want to go? I want to go this way. I just like the way this is cascading here. So I'm doing my little choppy strokes, but right now this is like my base. So you can really see those choppy strokes on the top. Do I want more? Yes. And I need to have that a little bit wetter. So your base color, you can kind of, you know, blending is okay, you know, because you're going to come back with those visible strokes on top a little bit later. So I want to cover a lot of ground now. I don't think I want to go that high. And I want to do some phthalo blue because I really want that pretty teal. Not saying that the ultramarine is not pretty, but I love that teal. And if you want a teal, you want to mix the phthalo green and the phthalo blue. So it's going to be dark. You can't really see it. I'm doing my strokes. I'm going to come down here with some more blue. If you need to get to the edge, pull your canvas to the edge. And you might have to hold it. And I want to come over here with blue. I want all this blue. All right, I want blue. And I still have that green in the base of my brush, so that hasn't gone away. It's just mixing. But the more blue I add, the bluer it's going to get. But I still have green, and it's blending. And you kind of want to cover up. All this is what I had on that previous painting, and I'm kind of covering all that up, but it's okay if some of that shows through. But I just don't want it to look... I don't want it to look grainy, you know, when you don't have enough water on your brush. and the side. All right, I'm gonna let's go ahead and do some blue here while I've got it on my brush. Just for the sake of time. My brush is wetter than it was here because I'm laying in that base color, and when time is working against you, you can kind of cut little corners if you need to cover more ground and then come in with those strokes on the top. And then I want to go ahead, wait, did I get the side? I want to go ahead and get the side. I want some green really quickly. And let's get some of that blue. And then I'll come in with, I might do a little bit of white because you know, you got to see something down there. What direction am I going in? Now, bottom, yes, you need to paint the bottom too, but sometimes I kind of wait because when you put it back on your easel, it might mess up. But since I'm here, let's go ahead and do it. And this doesn't have to be perfect because who looks at the bottom of a painting when it's hanging? Some people do, and I need some more water. And I'm just doing this for the sake of continuing that same, being consistent with my color. All right, so really quickly, a little bit of white, just a little bit, just a little bit, just a little bit. Just a little bit, just a little bit, just a little bit. That's too much. Now I'm gonna come back in and blend that. I'm just kind of trying to figure out how I want this. I don't really know. All right, now that's enough white. I'm gonna clean my brush because I want that white off. Okay. And I think I want some black, just a little bit, just a little bit, just a little bit, because black will overpower your piece just like the white will. Just enough to make it a shade or just make it a little bit darker. Let's do some dark. I just want a few little strokes, just a few little strokes. Don't overpower. I like that it's mixing because I don't want pitch black. I don't want pure black. And then what am I going to do to mix in those colors? I think I want to put a little bit of blue and then we're going to stop for today. Thank you for your attention so far. I'm going to just take a little bit of the phthalo. Last little part here. Hang in there with me. And just, I think that's too wet. I'm just going to kind of go over that. Yeah, I love that. Kind of go over that white because I don't like it that white. Turn your brush if you don't want to redip. Turn your brush. I don't like that too white. But I don't want it mixed either. So I'll go play with that some. And then I'm going to play with my background. I didn't get quite that far this time. But I'm going to stop there. We're working on our abstract tree or our abstract landscape or our realistic tree. This one just happens to be an abstract tree. You can make it the next project. If you want to make it realistic, fine. If you want to finish your abstract project, that's fine too. We did a combination of both kind of, and we're not finished. So I want to thank everyone for coming today. I want to thank you for your attention. Thank you for your participation. Thank you for your time. I hope we were able to paint together. I would love to see some of your work.